Good morning, folks. How are you? Great to be here. Very excited to join you up here. What an incredible event. Today, I would like to talk with you about cultivating creativity and how it literally is like a muscle, just like your bicep. This is something that you can work on. It's something you can practice, and it is an absolutely incredible tool. So I'm a nerd. No surprise. As you can see from this photo, I've been a nerd for a long time. And, you know, what's a nerd, right? A nerd is one who's got the tools that they need to solve a problem and a willingness to do that. And so at this age, right, you know, I've got all my toys and gear with me. But as I grew older, I studied engineering, computer science and electrical engineering, and, you know, worked in a lot of different industries. I worked in furniture. I worked in auto salvage and insurance. I was even a sushi chef for a little while. And things didn't get kind of properly weird until I met my co-founder, Eric Gradman. And he and I, in 2008, you know, he's also an engineer. We both happened to be trained clowns. And we were very frustrated with what we were doing. It was, you know, the world financial crisis, things weren't so awesome, and we weren't working on stuff that we were that excited about, and we were pretty frustrated. People were on their phones all the time, on Facebook. We really liked live, right? People in public, getting together, hanging out. So we just started collaborating, making interactive art that would get people playing together. We took a camera and some simple computer vision software, pointed it at a whiteboard, and made this simple interactive installation. The camera would pick up what you were drawing, the projector would project a physics simulation that would bounce off of what you did. Really simple. We made it in an evening. We took it to a party, and people liked it. So we said, hey, this is really fun. Let's make as much stuff as we possibly can, see if we can challenge ourselves to make something new every single month. We made our own simple arcade cabinet, 6 players all around this table. My favorite part is most people come to an event in 2 and 4. 6, really guaranteed you were meeting somebody new. You know, it's maybe awkward to be like, hey, yo, what do you do for work? But really easy to be like, I'm going to kill you next time. And, you know, also, the graphics on here, super simple, you know? I mean, this is not Xbox Halo level graphics. It didn't take much. A lot of the best games are really simple games. What else? Let's see here. We filled a room with fog and laser beams. My favorite thing about this is everyone knows what to do in a room of laser beams. It doesn't matter who you are, you know, and we would take these to fine dining events and people in, you know, ball gowns and tuxedos, commando rolling across the floor, and you know, my co-founder ended up meeting his wife in this thing at one of those events. They got married. They actually just had their first kid a year ago. It's actually his birthday this Sunday, and so I still consider this absolutely our most effective game. Okay, this clicker's giving me a hard time. All right, so we also said, hey, Rock Band is awesome, Space Battle is awesome, let's do Rock Band for Space Battle. 2 ships, a pilot, a gunner, and a navigator on one ship, a pilot, a gunner, and a navigator on the other ship, and you have to try to destroy each other's ships. So really a ton of fun. Again, getting people together, playing in public. And, you know, also simple stuff, right? This is a wall of buttons. You might think to yourself, a wall of buttons, I mean, that's ridiculous. But, you know, shockingly, you know, whack-a-mole meets Twister is really a lot of fun, getting people, you know, running together at the same time. Ultimately, a rock band, this incredible rock band reaches out, says, hey, we heard about this band of nerds in downtown Los Angeles. We'd love your help with a music video. And we said, wow, of course we'll help you do that. And it started like this. It ended like this. And, you know, over the course of a 20,000 square foot warehouse, we smashed televisions and dropped pianos and made this big, crazy Rube Goldberg machine. And OK Go is the group. They've gone on to create so many other incredible music videos. And they're a bunch of great nerds also. And you know, we really just had a ball building this thing. But the thing that was the most fascinating to me is went super viral, about 50 some odd million views. We got all these calls from parents and teachers. And they were using this in their physics classes, in their science classes. And we thought to ourselves, wow, that is wild. This music video that we were just sort of screwing around with on a weekend, like that is used as a teaching tool. Like we're not educators, like what's going on? So we filed that away in our heads and you know, kept building stuff and started to do bigger and bigger projects. We helped Chevy launch a car by literally bungee jumping it off a tower of shipping containers. You know, wonderfully, no one was hurt, but it would literally dip its nose into this little kiddie pool. so we said, okay, we've done this. Let's launch this as a real company. And so we started a circus called 2-Bit Circus, and we've been continuing to build stuff ever since. Everything from an escape room for Warner Brothers. We built our own 360 camera when VR first launched, or launched for the second time in the 2010s. And we strapped that to a race car, drove it at 200 miles an hour around a racetrack, so that we could sit you in a motion platform and you could feel what it was like to be a race car driver. We did the same for the NFL. You would be able to feel what it was like to run the touchdown pass. This little black plates under would vibrate as you would run down the field. And for the Olympics, what's it like to dive off the high dive? What's it like to be there on the sand with the volleyball players? Again, what's it like to actually be the athlete? So really put a lot of folks through virtual reality. Kind of funny for a bunch of nerds that don't really like sports. We did all this sports stuff. But we also made a cloud that rains tequila, which was a lot of fun. We did that for the Mexican Board of Tourism. I just love the Mexican Board of Tourism, that they would invest in something like this. Every time it would rain in Berlin, it would rain tequila out of our cloud. So that was really just had a ball. And after building all of this crazy stuff, right, things in virtual reality, physical installations, we started to think about, well, hey, what's meaningful in life? What are the things that we should really, we've got this big band of nerds, what should we be working on of all the problems we should solve? And there's this concept in Japanese called ikigai. And ikigai is a really powerful sentiment. And it's about, how you can have a beautiful life. And it has this Venn diagram, and at the intersection of this Venn diagram is where what they believe happiness lies. And there's a bunch of important things here, right? It's important to do what you love. It's important to do what you're good at, right? It's important to do what you can be paid for. And it also is important to do what the world needs. And if you can sit at that intersection of all those things, that is where you will really, truly find happiness. And so we started to explore, well, gosh, what does the world need? And it's kind of a hard question to answer. Of all the things that I should work on for the next hour, what should I do, right? What's my most highly leveraged time? And so as we thought about what the world needs, started to look around, and it turns out there's lists, right? There's a lot of smart people who have gotten together and said, hey, we know exactly what it is that the world needs. So there's a whole set of hard problems out there, and I would urge you to take a look at these hard problems as you think about what you're going to work on next, because these are the things that we can really fundamentally change humanity. The National Academy of Engineers has what they call their grand challenges, their global grand challenges. The UN has their sustainability development goals. There it is. The UN has their sustainability development goals, and even a bunch of the great venture capitalists of the world. Y Combinator has a whole list of what it is that they believe are the startups that they would like to fund, that they think are going to be the most impactful. Andreessen Horowitz, the list just goes on and on. So we looked at all of those and we said, well, education and learning is an important one, right? We've got no shortage of hard problems, but we do have a major shortage of creative, passionate inventors to go out and solve those problems. So education was the one that we got excited about. And okay, well, why now, right? Why should we be talking about this now? Why is it important now? Well, the US Department of Labor has a statistic that is terrifying. 65% are going to be, of school children today are going to be in jobs that don't exist yet. Now imagine that. It doesn't actually even mean the jobs will exist. So that's a pretty powerful statement. Not only that the job, how hard it is to train people for jobs that don't exist and that they might not actually exist. But the best part is, until everything is freaking awesome, there is work to do. There is a lot of great things that we can work on. So the best news, it's easier than ever. It is absolutely easier than ever to be an inventor and to be able to build and work on these solutions. And a couple of examples. My background's computer science. When you're going to do, learn a new language, the fundamental test is, how can I print the words "hello world"? Well, in the 80s, in assembly language, it looks like this. And that is totally terrible. I studied computer science, and I don't ever want to have to do this again. You're keeping track of memory registers and all sorts of stuff that's very foreign to humans. 10 years later, hello world looks like this. All right, in the programming language C, it's getting a lot easier. 10 years later, you can do it in Python. Hello world, just it's that easy. Even later than that, you can do it on your iPad in pictures, right? This is the, so the language is getting so much more accessible, so much easier to use. And that's not just in programming. CAD design. If you're going to design a new component, a new piece of metal, work on some new device, CAD used to look like this. Totally foreign, archaic, you needed a PhD. Now, you can literally do it on, in your web browser and in an afternoon. So pick your domain, and the tools and the accessibility for it are easier than they've ever been, so that in the course of a weekend, you can have a working solution. So Madeline Engel says, inspiration comes during work, not before it. And this is really powerful. You're not sitting on the couch and you have a light bulb moment. You are actively engaged in something. You're actively engaged in solving a problem or working on some project. And that's when you realize, oh my gosh, there's some new solution. I don't know if you've played with the toy Bop It, that wonderful toy. He set out to make a remote control. He thought that televisions needed a new remote control. And instead, as nobody wanted to buy his remote control, he realized, wow, this would be a really cool toy. And sure enough, it became an incredible toy and a massive success. It took him engaging in one direction only to realize that the right solution was in another direction. So if the old school approach to learning is that you learn to read so that you can then read lots of books in order to learn, the new school approach is learn to make, right? Start making things, and in the process of making, you're going to start to really, that's where you're going to be learning, right? That's when you're going to start to discover the new solution, discover the new direction. Okay, so there's a term STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Okay, great. Politicians and educators have agreed that that's going to be the domain that we know we need more students trained in this domain. But the sad part is, it's kind of got a branding problem. It's not that, it doesn't sound as exciting as it really is. And in fact, a lot of people think of this guy when they think of STEM. And, he's probably done some really incredible stuff, but that's not, this is not exactly as exciting as being a basketball player or a DJ, right? But if you knew Anouk Wipprecht, this incredible fashion designer who 3D printed this whole thing and has motion sensors so that if you approach her from the side, these freaking things attack out at you. She made a dress that is all white, and over the course of the night, ink drips from her shoulders all the way down this dress. I mean, incredible inventor, incredible creative, and also a STEM person. So we got very excited about the term STEAM, STEM plus art. The art, the creativity, that's the exciting stuff. That's why we want to do this. Yeah. So STEAM is powerful, right? It's the art and the creativity it's why all of our band of nerds got into this kind of stuff, and it's the reason for being able to get excited about these. And you think of this guy, Leonardo da Vinci, right? Is he a STEM guy? Sure, yeah, engineer, mathematician, and an artist, right? An incredible creative, an incredible inventor. So we decided, hey, all right, we've done 100 events for other people, let's do our own event. We'll do a big traveling carnival, STEAM carnival, and it'll be one half all the high-tech creations we've been making for years, one half a bunch of hands-on projects to inspire students about science, engineering, all the fundamentals of invention, programming, electronics, fabrication, creativity, design thinking. I love this, when you're building a project, this was our design goal. So I call this our overpromising rendering. Didn't look like that. It looked like this, which was also fun. But at the same time, we did pack in as much crazy stuff as we could. Remember the old dunk tank where you throw a ball and you fall in water? We thought, water is pretty cool. Fire is awesome. So ours is the dunk tank flambe. You throw a ball, you're immersed in that fireball, but you don't die because you're wearing this fire suit. If you could see here, right there, the person getting immersed in fire. And we've done this huge event in Los Angeles. We'd been sponsored by IBM and Intel and a fire suit company. And so I call up the CEO of Nutex, the fire suit company, and I was like, hey, dude, so excited. We're getting ready to go up to San Francisco. We're bringing the dunk tank. Any chance you have those suits in kid sizes? He was like, what? no, I don't have them in kid sizes. What are you talking about? I was like, yeah, all right, maybe that's a bad idea. Okay. So I've just got a really short video. We actually took one of our cameras wrapped in, a GoPro camera wrapped in fire retardant cloth into the dunk tank. Whoa, sorry. So here goes. You're going to get a chance to see. And my favorite part is these cameras all melted, but we were able to get the data off. So this kid tries, his arm's really not kind of ready, but this girl, oh yeah. So nuts. I still, even every time I see this, I still can't believe it. Oh my God. See, science is awesome. All right. All right, so this is my favorite picture in our whole canon, right? This kid, the look on his face, I just imagine this being tattooed on his brain. Okay, so we launched a foundation. We took that whole program and we launched a nonprofit, all focused on taking these kinds of programs all over the place. We have a whole approach to teacher training. We assemble a bunch of consumable materials from companies, extra bottle caps from the bottling company, extra packaging supplies from the packaging company, and those become the consumable materials that are used as kids learn to make their own games and then throw their own carnival. It's like a complete alternative to the science fair. So I want to dig into a few things around how to cultivate your creativity, how to engage with the world in really meaningful ways. And the first place to start is social. We are social animals, right? We could be at home watching this video, and we are here in public, live. And this is the highest resolution form of way you're going to engage with life, is together, elbow to elbow. And it turns out that as a society, we do this less and less. There is an incredible book called Bowling Alone. And this guy, Robert Putnam, did an amazing analysis of just about all the ways in which humans have engaged in public. Union attendance, bowling, card playing, church attendance, just about everything he could figure out. And across all of them, attendance is down, right? We instead are home alone, on average depressed, right? That's basically the takeaway. But that as social animals, we actually really long for this face-to-face kind of interaction. And the even worse piece of what he's talking about is the magnitude of not having social relationships, right? The magnitude on mortality of not being engaged socially and connected with people is as important as quitting smoking, right? Imagine that. The decision to go out and hang out with people and engage in public is as important as deciding whether you're going to smoke cigarettes or not. That's fascinating. Now, he has another theory, and that's that your civic engagement, right, the amount that you engage with the world and help to ensure that the world is becoming a better place, tracks perfectly with our lack of attendance in public, and that it just collapses, craters after the 60s. And that's just a terrible thing, right? It is in the interstitial moments between these talks and in the intermissions when you're meeting new people and is when you're engaged in learning about how we might be able to make the world a better place. So you've maybe heard about escape rooms. How many people have done an escape room in the audience? Look at that, that's amazing. Escape rooms did not exist in 2013. There's over 100 of them in Los Angeles now, they're all over the place. And this is a social puzzle solving game, right? And so, if there's not, for me, that's such a great example of getting people back out in public again, playing together elbow to elbow. We have what we call story rooms. You get to be on the bridge of a starship, all making sure that you don't crash into a planet and navigate the galaxy. Okay, immersive. So there's a lot of talk these days about immersive entertainment, immersive tools. There's some great stuff upstairs. And you've probably heard the terms virtual reality, augmented reality, even mixed reality. All of these are getting so much more powerful than they've ever been. VR was here in the 90s. It was expensive and difficult. Everything was hard. It's finally easy. There's lots of great providers. There's all kinds of incredible approaches. And there's a bunch of other things that have been around. Alternate reality games, escape escape games, immersive theater. You guys here in Vancouver have a lot of great options for immersive theater, and an old term, transmedia. I put all of these things together in the same bucket, which is you are immersed and an active participant. You're no longer just a passive observer of your entertainment solution. And that's a really powerful thing. Rather than just reading a book or watching a movie where you have no effect on the world, you get to actively participate in this kind of entertainment. So I could describe to you for a long time what it's like to drink a glass of water, but until you actually drink that glass of water, you don't really know what I'm talking about, right? Now, clearly, you guys have all had water before. But there are so many other kinds of entertainment where not until are you totally immersed in it do you really understand. So, Alice in Wonderland, right? Wouldn't it be amazing to know what it's like to actually be Alice and go down the rabbit hole? Well, in VR, thanks to Jon Favreau, you can download Gnomes and Goblins and have a little taste of what that might feel like. Or James Bond, right? That classic moment when he's right there about to die. The bad guy says, James Bond, here you are, you're about to die. I'm going to tell you my whole master plan, and then I'm going to leave the room. And so, sure enough, he does that, and we all know what happens. Well, you can now be a part of that in an incredible game called I Expect You to Die, and you get to feel what it's like to be in that moment and solve the problem, try to figure out what's happening. And the tools continue to extend into all kinds of things beyond entertainment. Virtual reality as it applies to training of new physicians and surgeons, visualization. Even on the patient side, an incredible company out of Los Angeles called Applied VR is using virtual reality just for pain management, right? To be able to take people's minds off of the surgery that they're about to go on. Really an incredible solution. Out of the UK, you can actually, for caregivers of people with dementia, they made a VR experience so that just those who are interfacing with the people that have dementia can understand what it is they're going through and really empathize with their situation. Out of Los Angeles, Skip Rizzo out of USC is using virtual reality in order to train, and help support people with PTSD. They've returned from war, and he can put them back into the situation in which they are the most scared and the most traumatized by, and help slowly guide them out of it. There's even a game that's about to be FDA approved as a prescription. It's literally a prescription video game for ADHD. So instead of prescribing a pill, you'd be prescribed a video game. I mean, that is incredible. So there's a group in San Francisco, one of my favorite makers of escape games, and they're wonderful escape games and also learning tools. You learn about Roosevelt and Einstein and Edison, and all in the context of a game. Play is so important that if you can do something that is fun and happen to learn something, I mean, that's like sugar-coated vegetables, incredible approach. Okay, so curiosity. Curiosity is ridiculously powerful. If you make the decision to be curious and ask questions, it will absolutely fundamentally change your life. Now, one of my favorite quotes is this one: specialization is for insects. This is from Robert Heinlein. But this is actually the end of the quote. The beginning of the quote is the part that's so special. And he says, a human being should be able to change a diaper, plan an invasion, butcher a hog, con a ship, design a building, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, program a computer, pitch manure, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, die gallantly. Specialization is for insects, right? Wow, that is awesome, right? What's he advocating for? He's advocating for diversity of experience. He's advocating for diversity of skill sets, trying lots of different things. There's not one career in there. There is an entire complex human. Now, so the more that you can embrace a variety of different disciplines, the more creative and powerful you will be. There's a great article in TechCrunch called Specialization, Polymaths, and the Pareto Principle. Now, if that's not a confusing enough title, the content of it is super incredible. Now he makes a case for how highly leveraged the most early moments of learning are. Now, you might think, a linear relationship, you get out what you put in. 1 unit of effort gives you 1 unit of reward. He makes a case that no, this follows a Pareto law, an 80-20 rule, if you've heard that at the very earliest moments of learning are the most highly leveraged. So to say that in numbers, right, for an input of 20, wow, look at that. You get the result of 80, right? Your leverage is 4x. But in the earliest mode, right, 0.06 input, you get 26 times, right, 4,000 times the result. Now, as we apply that to learning, think about being a layman in some new task, right? You put in a tiny little of effort and you read the Wikipedia article, right? You put in a tiny bit more effort and all of a sudden you get kind of a big result out of that. In fact, to go from being a journeyman to a master, that's the part that takes a ton of time. That's where you really are an expert. But if you just put a little bit of time in something, all of a sudden you are like halfway there. You know, that's a pretty incredible result. So really an incredible argument for taking time to try a lot of different stuff. You don't have to be an expert at it. Just have it just a little bit of awareness for it. Okay, so cultivating creativity. There are a lot of approaches that we use at 2-Bit Circus in order to stay creative. Again, this is a muscle. This is something that you actively can work on. So I've got a few examples. One of my favorites is random input. Now, you could live a life where you wake up and go to school or go to work and come home and go to sleep and wake up and go to school or go to work and come home and really don't have much diversity of life experience. When you are called on to have a creative moment, to come up with a new idea, you're only ever going to be pulling from your own life experience, right? That's the only way, right? It's only your own memories that you're going to be able to pull from. Now, if you've had a mundane life, a boring life, you are not going to have a lot of fodder, right? There's not a lot of stuff that you can draw on. But if you have actively engaged and tried as many things as you possibly can, you've got a deep well, a reservoir of solutions that you can pull from. So how do you get random input? Well, one of my favorites is conference crashing. You've heard of wedding crashing. Go crash conferences. Go to conferences that have nothing to do with your life, right? And Las Vegas particularly has tons of conferences. Vancouver has tons of conferences. And go to them and just wander around. And I've been to the packaging convention, auto insurance conventions, neuroscience conventions, and you would be shocked at how much some problem that's in the back of your mind is going to take that additional fodder, that additional innovation from packaging, and is going to show up somehow in your life later. And being curious, being able to ask those questions, super powerful. I have a writer friend who, when he has writer's block, he just gets on a bus. He doesn't care where he's going. He just gets on the bus and he tries to imagine the story of everybody getting on and off the bus. And then he has the added benefit of landing at wherever the destination of the bus is and trying to figure out how to get home. So, these are just simple things, simple decisions you can make in your life that expose you to lots of newness, lots of new stuff. Another friend of mine will try to travel on $5 a day. And the decision to try to figure that out forces you into new positions, new understandings of the world, new places that you would never be otherwise. So random input, ridiculously powerful, adds all sorts of diversity to your life. So the opposite of random input and that whole sort of Cambrian explosion of content is to reflect. And this is the absence, right? Do nothing. Don't listen to music. Meditation is getting a lot of airplay these days. But the idea is allow your brain the opportunity to synthesize all of the stuff that you're being exposed to. Very powerful. Your brain is an incredible parallel processing computer that will make disparate connections between things that you might not expect. Give it that opportunity to do so. Just drive and don't listen to music. Don't listen to anything. Let your mind wander. That's a beautiful thing. When someone's asked, and then if someone asks you what you're doing, don't say nothing. Say, I'm thinking, right? Your brain is amazing. Let it be so. Take notes. Now, I cannot endorse enough the importance of taking physical notes. And I do not mean on your phone. I've had a folded piece of paper in my back pocket since I was 12. And taking notes is a very powerful thing. Now, first, you never need to look at it again. If you don't want to, you never need to look at it again. The act of writing it down helps to solidify the memory in your brain. The more of your body, the more senses that are involved in a memory, the better you will learn it. And so the act of writing this thing down is going to help that to solidify in your brain. What's more, you are a great typist, most likely, and you can type really fast. So you can get into a mode taking notes on a computer where your brain is not really involved. You are just dictating whatever they're saying. You're probably a slow writer. And so what happens is the act of having to distill down what you just heard into something shorter that you can write down forces your brain to be involved. You need to distill out what is the moment that just happened that is the thing I'm going to write down. And the act of that distillation engages your frontal lobe in order to be able to capture that memory. Now, I was, like I said, at a neuroscience conference, and the neuroscientist was passing out notebooks saying, because your brain is fallible. Now, just about anybody could give me a notebook, and I'd be like, oh yeah, thanks, dude. When the brain guy says your brain is fallible, you listen. Okay, inspiring invention. This is another thing that can be systematized, can be part of an approach, a practice. One is access to tools. As I mentioned earlier, it's never been a better time to be a nerd, to be an engineer, to be able to build and make and create. And one of the things that's so powerful about that is the tools have never been better. I used to run a web hosting and web design company, and I had an entire bank vault of servers. I had to go and replace hard drives and do all this stuff that was a total nightmare. And then Amazon Web Services came, and that entire business made no sense. And the click of a button, I could spin up a new server and be off and running. Now, that also extends to fabrication, right? Laser cutters, machine tools, all of those things are more powerful than they've ever been. And what happens is, when you've got tools, you put them to work. And it's one thing to have an idea and imagine what could happen. It's entirely different to actually make a prototype. Remember, Madeline Engel, inspiration comes during work, not before it. You need to test and iterate. You've just come up with an idea? Great. Now do something about it. Make a version. And when you've made it, you think you can see it and you can say, wow, that's awesome. Or, oh my God, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen, right? But whatever it is, you at least know, and you can now put it to the test and know for sure and iterate and test again. You also, sometimes you just think, hey, I've got this great tool, what can I do with it? And that's its own little bit of fodder and launch pad for something new. A stimulating environment. This is a little bit of a corollary to random input, but the more that you can expose yourself to other people, other folks that are doing interesting things, the better. At 2-Bit, we have a variety of different special evenings. We have a top secret nerd night. This is a little bit like Fight Club, happens once a month, and only people who have made things can come, because if it's your first time, you have to present. Now, what that does is it ensures our team gets to showcase, what it is they're working on with our friends and our colleagues in the community. The community gets to showcase what they're working on with everybody else. And it makes sure that we're all surrounded by other interesting people doing interesting things. And we make games, so we have a game night. We play all of these other games that are out there and try to learn what is cool and happening. So the more ways that you can have surround yourself with a stimulating environment, the more creative you'll be. All right. Cross-disciplinary. I love this picture. Cross-disciplinary is if you have cultivated your creativity and I've cultivated my creativity, then both of us together are going to be able to come up with that many more interesting things. So we're always looking for a team with variety. We have, one of our lead electrical engineers is the world's second-ranking unicyclist, right? We've got, an incredible physicist who is also, an irreverent Southerner, right? We try to get different people with different backgrounds together to solve a problem. Now, you've probably heard a lot of terms, and talk these days about diversity. Right? Diversity is so important. It's important because you want lots of voices at the table as you go to build something. We have a beta night where when we build something new, we bring in the community to come and help us test it. And invariably, the engineer who just built the thing is going to stand there with, the new creation that they have, and little Johnny is going to walk up and play it, and his grandma is going to walk up and play it. And there's all of these different things that this engineer, who is one person and not old and not young and is not short or tall, but is going to be exposed to all sorts of different feedback, because there was, just by the nature of humanity, differences in the way in which we all are. And so this cross-disciplinary approach is a very powerful way to ensure that whatever it is you're building has a whole variety of different applications. Brainstorming. So brainstorming is very powerful, and this is a way. You can systematize this to ensure that you're coming up with better inventions. There is a video I urge you all to watch. John Cleese from Monty Python has what he calls intermediate impossibles. And so his talk on creativity, he talks about intermediate impossibles. And what's an intermediate impossible? Well, if we're brainstorming, let's say we're going to come up with a new medical device, and I say pirates. And you're like, pirates? What does that have to do with medical devices? Well, this intermediate impossible, this pirates that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, is more fodder for the conversation, so that as we're brainstorming, you might be like, oh yeah, well, there's Captain Hook, and we could use a hook to latch on to, the virus, whatever, right? But the intermediate impossible is the thing that helps to add that fodder to the creative process. So Disney, when he would brainstorm, had actually 3 physical rooms that he would move between. And the rooms are very important, and the process is very important. In the first room is the Cambrian explosion room, right? The dreamer room. There is no room for cynics here. There is no wrong answer. Throw everything against the wall. All of the intermediate impossibles, all the ridiculous things. Throw out the laws of physics and economics. It doesn't matter. Throw out as many possible ideas as you can. Next, you move to the realist, or the cynic room. And in the cynic's room, now we can finally say, okay, of that huge list that we just had, let's cut all the things that don't apply, right? The things that don't have the laws of physics and don't use proper economics. And then finally in the last room, the realist room, of all the things that survived, what are we actually going to work on? But you can see that you only get in those last 2 rooms what you put out in the very beginning. So you cannot have the cynic in the beginning. You need to ensure that the most diverse concepts are available, so that by the time you decide what it is you're going to be, what you're going to work on, you're culling from a great list. And mentorship. This one is ridiculously important. I cannot highlight this enough. You all are mentors. You all have the capacity to be mentors. We have an education system in the entire world that is not awesome, right? It's not awesome, not for not trying, but the format of one person broadcasting to 30 students, invariably there's no way for that one teacher to be able to interface with everybody. There's no substitute for one-on-one with someone. And you all have something to teach. And if you don't believe me, you get oxytocin from being a mentor. It's obviously great for the student. It's great for you. And is the part that's so powerful is we all have mirror neurons in our brain that allow us to watch somebody else and imagine ourselves doing something. And so if you really don't believe me, if you are literally just in the room where mentorship happens and you're not even mentoring, you will feel great. Not only that, it's an incredible source of creativity, right? Kids are amazing. Students will come up with the most wild ideas. And so this is something that is, of course, great for the mentee, but incredibly powerful for the mentor as well. So I urge you all to be a mentor. One-on-one with a student is really powerful. Okay, so what's coming next, right? This is a really awesome time to be alive. You see upstairs, right? There's exoskeletons and 3D printed brains and freaking healing concrete. I mean, there is no shortage of incredible stuff that is on the horizon. It's very powerful. So there's a few that I'm particularly excited about. Seamless augmented reality, haptic effects, brain interfaces, and I'm going to just dig into these really quickly in the last time that we have. So augmented reality is here. It's happening. It's not quite as pervasive as we'd like, but I want to show you this little dystopian video. I urge you to watch the whole video, but I just want to show you this short one. This is this woman, from her perspective, she's got her AR headset on, and her headset's rebooting. So this is no augmented reality. And here comes her augmented reality system coming back online, you'll get to see, oh my gosh, all of a sudden there's all of this additional richness in her environment. She's got her heads-up display, she's got her little pet Tamagotchi that she's taking care of on the front of her cart, and you know, it's now. Like I said, this is a very dystopian view, but the rest of this video. But what's possible with augmented reality is really absolutely going to be game-changing. I mean, it'll be like the introduction of the internet and the introduction of mobile phones. Augmented reality will be completely transformative. And you guys, right, all of the students in the room are the ones who are going to be able to build the Amazons and the Facebooks and the future world that is going to be possible with that. Axon VR. This company is making haptics. Now, if you don't know what haptic is, this is the feedback that you feel. So they have right now a glove, and I put on this glove, and I could, and in virtual reality, a dragon flew in the room and landed on my hand. Now, I felt the pricks on my hand of that dragon's claws. That dragon then flamed my fingers, and I felt heat on my fingers. It then iced my fingers, and I felt cold on my fingers, literally standing right there, and I could feel all of those things happen, and the dragon flew away. What? That's freaking nuts. Now, their view is this, right? An entire haptic suit and an exoskeleton that allows you to jump and fall and fly and all of the other things, because when you have a virtual reality headset on, it's only what your eye, only your eyes are seeing what's happening there. If I say you're falling in VR and you don't feel you're falling in your vestibular sense in your ear, you're not going to be convinced. But if all of a sudden I have an exoskeleton that gives you that sensation, that's freaking magic. And we've already seen upstairs, there's an exoskeleton upstairs, so half this project is already done, right? He's already got the glove that's working. I mean, this technology is here today, so very powerful. Neurable, this is a brain interface. There I am, literally with a VR headset on, and I just thought about interacting with something on the wall, and my brain and the system responded to me. Incredible. Ready Player One. How many read this book? Great. Hopefully a lot of you saw the movie. Really awesome, a world that was painted here. And a lot of the technology in there is already here, right? This is going to be evenly distributed and incredibly powerful. Now, it's fun to watch a movie, but if you remember inside of Ready Player One, they got to be inside the movie, right? The flick sync. Now, I was at a hackathon for USC a couple of weeks ago, and I literally got to do this. And in this one, I was in VR inside of Alice in Wonderland. And floating in front of me as I sat there at the Mad Hatter table was the lines that I was supposed to say. And sure enough, I said my lines, and IBM Watson determined how well I said them. And only if I got above a 90% did the scene continue. Oh my God, it was so freaking rad. I completely forgot that I was in a room with 50 people and I was on stage and I had the thing and I'm doing voices and I'm like all just making a ridiculous fool out of myself, but I was that immersed in this world. Now, this is just one tiny test at a hackathon at a university. When do I get to actually live in all of my favorite movies? That's an entire business. That's an entire industry that doesn't exist yet. Somebody go make that, please, because I would like to do that a lot more. It's a ton of fun. If you're not convinced that the tech is here, Intel has in Los Angeles a massive, massive capture stage, just slightly smaller than this room. And in that room, it's a huge green screen with 70 cameras pointed inside. So big that they could have an entire main street of a Western town and capture that whole thing volumetrically. Now, when I say volumetrically, I mean they can literally capture from every angle what's happening in that, on that scene. If you saw the Matrix bullet time, where the camera spins around, exactly like that. Now, what that allows you to do is capture that video volumetrically so that you could wander around in the middle of that Western scene and first be on the side of the guy that gets shot, and then walk around and be on the guy who was shooting. Now, if that doesn't sound like Westworld, I don't know what is. But this is here today. That technology is here and ready today. At the School of Engineering in Santa Cruz, they have an entire degree just on computational media, right? Imagine that together with AI, you could interact with an agent and have that thing be completely rendered and still have a personalized interaction with that computer. Very powerful. Sophie, I love this. This robot is hilarious. It's a little, disconcerting. But my favorite part is after Sophie had, her sort of big announcement was this Instagram where it says, Siri on her way to the unemployment office after seeing that video of Sophie the robot. So good. Okay, so very happy to share. We're getting ready to open what we call a micro amusement park. It's a 50,000 square foot entertainment complex. We're putting the first one in the middle of downtown Los Angeles. Massive place, all variety of different stuff. A carnival midway, a whole reimagined arcade, a virtual reality arena, robot bartenders. It's absolutely going to be bananas, and we literally open it in so soon. So I'm a little stressed out. We're putting it right in the middle of downtown LA. I just can't wait to show you. Okay, so just to close here, what does the world need, right? What does the world need? And, hopefully over the course of this talk, I've helped to expose you to a few different new concepts. Clearly, we know that there's a bunch of hard problems out there that need help, but what they really need is your help, right? You thinking creatively, and right now, if you imagine that it's like the 70s in computers, right? People didn't know what a computer looked like, or the 30s in film. We had just added audio, and nobody had made, all of the incredible films that you know. This is a very, nascent time for a lot of these tools, and there's so much new stuff that hasn't been built. So we really need you thinking creatively, being an inventor, and going out there and creating awesome stuff, because there's never been a better time to do it, and I can't wait to see what you make. Thanks so much.